How about Lindsey Brown? He's not here yet. Is he coming?
Yeah, hang on just a second.
I didn't know I didn't see him. I mean,
Stacy, you just tell us.
I'm good. I'm just making sure that it's online. So
Okay.
you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, think we're ready? All right. Let's call this April 12th, 2022 Madison County Planning Commission to order, please. Jerry said he would say a prayer for us.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you that we have this time today to discuss the business of Madison County that relates to this particular planning board. We pray that you would give each member of this board the wisdom to do what is best for this county. We pray that you would help us to lay aside preconceived notions and ideas, but just to think clearly about what needs to be done for the benefit of constituents and people in this county. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, everybody stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have a roll call, please? Wait a minute. No, we can't.
oh, she vanished, Wes. She's get down.
Here.
I think she went to make some copies.
John Richwine?
Present.
Oh, we'll have Stacy do it now.
Sorry.
Roll call.
I apologize. Get ready for roll call?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Mark Gary,
Present.
Denise Spooner,
Here.
Jerry Alexander,
Here.
Lindsey Brown, Tom Shepard,
Here.
John Richwine,
Present.
John Zimmerman,
Here.
Corey Bolander,
Here.
and Wes Lykin.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, March 8th minutes. Are there any addition or correction to those minutes?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for March 8th.
Second. A motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passes. All right. The electronic meeting participation.
You have in front of you a resolution that is required to be passed for the post-pandemic world in order to continue to meet, or for some of you to meet, that can't be a majority, but for electronic participation in meetings, has to be audio, visual. You can only do so many a year that way to be considered present. There are a few restrictions on what you could vote for in terms of virtual. But in 2021, the state legislature passed a statute which allows people, prior to the pandemic, let me back up, There was absolutely, other than redevelopment commissions, there was no public agency that was permitted to meet virtually. No person could be there. Then during the pandemic, everybody could meet virtually. And so the legislature now has said, well, a quorum of you has to be present at the meeting, physically present, but we will allow people to show up, be counted present and vote virtually, but each person, or excuse me, each body must pass a resolution stating what the rules are for that. That resolution that's in front of you just really kind of regurgitates the state statute. Those are the limits on what you can do. And so if we would like for members to be able to show up virtually, we would need to pass a resolution like the one in front of you today.
You might talk about the quorum.
Yeah, as far as a quorum, the people still count toward the quorum that appear virtually. So but a majority of the commission, in this case 5 members, would have to be physically present here. But the 6th person or 7th that appears online could still vote, still appear. If only 4 are here, it doesn't matter if all other 5 want to show up virtually. The new state law does not permit that. So we have to have 5 here, which is always the case, has always been the case. But the difference is now you can show up virtually and vote. No more than, I think, 4 times a year, 3 times, something like that. You could do 2 in a row, but not 3. It's spelled out in your resolution.
So I make a motion here that resolution number 2022-PC-R be approved.
You would need a resolution number. Would that be 1?
I think it's 1.
Yes.
Yep.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mark Geary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Billander,
Yes.
and Wes Lykin.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, old business.
All right, our first 2 petitions are fairly easy. Our first one is petition number 22-Z-001. Path to Prosperity is the petitioner, and they have asked for a continuance. We weren't quite ready with where we were at in discussing their rezone, so they have formally requested a continuance. So I think if you guys could do a motion and
Continue to your next meeting.
yes.
And I suppose notices have already gone out to the interested parties that it'd be today, or are they not?
It was originally on the agenda. It was originally noticed for last month's meeting.
Okay.
And last month we continued it to today, so we're asking for a continuance to the next meeting.
Easy enough.
I'll move to accept that request.
A second.
Motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Go ahead.
Thank you. For petition number 22-Z-003, the petitioner was Alan Bittner, and this was at 2135 North State Road 9. They were requesting a rezone from R2 to multi-family for multi-family units, and over email, the petitioner has withdrawn the petition. So we just need to make sure that our minutes reflect that the petitioner has withdrawn it, and we have a copy of his email for our records. The third petition is 2022-W-002. The petitioner is Ashton Land Surveyors. The location is 7076 South 250 East in Markville. And this request is for a waiver of the width to depth ratio in the Conservation Residential Zoning District. So just for background knowledge and for anyone in the audience, waivers are supposed to go to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission shall consider the intent of the comprehensive plan and the subdivision control ordinance when deciding the waiver request. When I went back to go look at the comp plan to see what the future vision is for this land, it's showing that this land would remain in an agricultural area. Again, just to reiterate, we have a couple of zoning districts that focus on agriculture. One is just our agriculture district, and the other one is the conservation residential district. Our maximum lot depth for the zoning district, Kathy, real quick, because I might have an error in my notes. Do you know if this was zoned ag or if this is conservation residential? Okay. All right. So I believe in this district, our ratio is, the maximum lot depth is 3.5 the lot width for residential as the primary use. So in this case, our petitioner is proposing a lot width of approximately 231 feet, and our lot depth is approximately 1,345 feet. So this one's tripping me up. Our ratio is a little off. So according to our ordinance, the lot depth should be changed to either 811 feet, or our width for the lot should be 384 feet. When talking with when we looked at the plat, it really didn't appear that there were any physical limitations on the property as to why this lot width was selected. There aren't any structures or topographical features that may have, made the petitioner decide on this lot width. Kathy is here that can speak a little bit more to that. But just with this knowledge and kind of being new and learning, what the Plan Commission typically would give a waiver for or not, just straight based on the ordinance, my recommendation is to deny the petition. My feeling as a planner is that if we are regularly giving waivers for things like the width to depth ratio, that maybe we need to change our ordinance so that we are not making petitioners come and file for projects like these if we are just going to be waiving them. So what is our minimum that this really should be falling under? And let's change our ordinance to reflect that. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it and my staff recommendation at this time. So I'll let Kathy come up and she can kind of speak to what the petitioner is wanting to do and why the width or the depth was selected the way it was.
Hey, Stacy?
Yes, sir.
Lindsay came in in case you didn't see.
Yes, noted in coming in at 9:12.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. Like she said, my name is Kathy, and I'm from Ashton Land Surveyor. I'm a little loud, sorry. I have a long, big voice. The original division of this property, when I originally talked to the people, the young people who were buying this property, Keith Cook is selling the majority of the land to another farmer. The daughter is Shepherd, Kayla Shepherd. She wants to build a home and a barn on this property. The original intent was to try to go to the far east side of this property for them to be able to build that house and future barn. When we did that, we would not have, when we originally talked about it, and I had discussed this with Brad, I was going to try to put an easement on the south end and then put all the property to the far east. In discussing this with him, we had a little issue with the new buyer of the farm. We were not confident that the ingress-egress would not get altered or plowed under a little bit, because I was trying to give them at least 30 feet. And so the conversation started moving into, let's just take the 7 acres and stretch it to the very far corners. The house, they are going to be placing the house, the new home, within 350, 400 feet of that road. However, behind that house is what is a drainage easement. When you pull it up on the GIS, there is a drain called a George Hole, H-O-E-L. I don't know how to say it. The drain is there. When I look closely at the aerial, I see a break in the trees a little bit further to the west than what the GIS reflects. And then that tree line on that south line, that makes me think that the true drain is further to the west, closer to the road. And because of that, we wanted to be able to have enough room to move the barn to the east side so that it is not sitting on that drainage easement. And when we started doing all of this, the petitioners, which are the shepherds, we had a discussion, and the far east side, she didn't want to cut it off too far. She was concerned about whether the farmer would let it grow up or be able to turn around and everything. So we just decided to take it across the entire length of the south 2 parcels to make it the 7 acres. I guess the view from what I understand that they were talking about, the view from if they set the house where they want to the east is something else. It's beautiful. And she's really wanting to make sure so that she can still see the sunrise and stuff too. So.
So coming from a town planning background and not necessarily a county planning background, this is one of my first times dealing with a ratio like this. So I was trying to do a little research to understand why something like this is in place for a county. And what I found was that ratios like this exist, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating this for you guys who may already know this, but this was my learning experience with this, is that the point of having the ratio is to avoid having long, narrow lots. As communities grow and develop, the long, narrow lots become an issue if this ever were to get annexed into an incorporated area. It also may not be in line with land preservation type attitudes. So those are just some things to consider with this. Also on the way up, we learned that people with title companies don't necessarily like long, narrow lots either. That was just in passing. So anyway, just some things to consider as you make your decision.
One thing on this aerial view, as you look to the east, you'll see there are a number of long, narrow lots. Unbelievable number of long, narrow lots. It's kind of surprising there's that many. They were probably approved before the ordinance was changed, I'm assuming.
Right, that may be.
One thing you gotta make sure that you've got enough width there for the driveways long enough to get fire trucks. We've had trouble with that in the past. That a lot of those driveways aren't wide enough, so that's something to consider there. Typically, just for your information, typically we accept those when there's some kind of change with the topography, or you can't build a house in a low area, something like that. I mean, kind of adjusted them that way as an exception. But I was just curious if you did any research why in the world there's so many long, narrow lots. But man, there's a lot of them in this area. No, and my guess would be that, maybe we passed these before our current ordinance was in place, or at a previous time, maybe the commission was okay with approving. Some of those are so skinny, I don't see how well they get a driveway on.
They've got 230 feet.
Yeah, well, that's enough on that one. But boy, some of these others, I'm just looking at some of the ones that's already been approved.
Do you have the ability? Does anyone have the ability to turn on the topography on the GIS?
Just looking at this picture and the shadowing, it doesn't look like it. Typically the low areas are darker in color. I don't see much change in this.
And I guess if we're looking at the width at the road, what is proposed is we are short 153 feet approximately from what our ordinance would prefer.
Rachel, you had said that you had recommended non-approval of this. Is this the reason, long and narrow, or was it the problem with the drainage ditch?
My recommendation is because, I feel like my job as your planner is to go by what the ordinance states, first of all, unless there is something unique about the property that would be a reason to have a variance on this. And when I looked at the parcel itself, I didn't see that there was any limitations that made this something that I felt like couldn't be accommodated by the petitioner. So
would the proper procedure to be request a variance on the ordinance? Since we do have an ordinance, shouldn't they request some sort of variance first?
No, you guys have the ability to grant a waiver on this rule, so that's why she is here today, because our ordinance does give that ability to this board, is to grant a waiver on this particular issue. I think if long-term, if we are going to be approving petitions like this, that if this ratio that is proposed right here today, if that is appropriate, when we do an ordinance update, that is something as staff that I would need to note so that when we do an ordinance update, we can say this needs to get changed in the new one. I would say overall, I don't necessarily have a problem with the ratio or what is proposed today, but it just doesn't follow our ordinance. So, that's an indication to me that something should change long term if we're going to continue approving petitions like this. This is, in my mind, somewhat of a poor use of staff time to be reviewing these. It's a poor waste of Ashton's time to be having to come to a meeting like this. So we need to make it better to do business in Madison County. So if these are common ones that come to you guys and you guys approve them, that's an indication to me that our department needs to change something.
I was going to say, I guarantee this is probably not our first time doing it.
I'm sure it's not.
So,
It won't be the last either.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about, if we're going to continue to keep asking questions about the same thing, that we know we consistently keep coming on, we are wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should take this to a vote.
One of the findings you have to make is, are the conditions of this request unique to this specific property, which would not be applicable to other properties? You can make that finding and you approve. If you can't, the thought would be to deny, but that's pretty nice.
Kathy, what were you wanting us to look at on?
What I wanted to make sure that I pointed out real clearly, even though on our survey drawing where we show where that drain is, we don't have an actual visual of where that drain is because it is buried. And if I look at the tree line on the south, it is further to the west towards the road, which means we have 75 feet on each side of that, wherever that drain is, which is 150 feet of this property that is not buildable, which means we're going to either move the house to the east or to the west. And that means the garage, the barn, east or west. So I have to accommodate whichever direction we go. And when I asked that, I was trying to find out if I understand that the GIS does not have a real good lay of where that is buried. I am going to be reaching out to the surveyor because this is a county drain, and I'm going to ask him to probe to show me where it is. That is a problem that we do have with them buried. You can't really tell when there's been lots of farming done across the land that you can't really see exactly where it is. But I do know that they were saying that there is I can't see it on the aerial very well, but when I was talking to them, that I do know that it does kind of like a horseshoe look in that area. So.
Oh, I shortened up that.
Yes, but if you look at the tree line, it looks like it's further to the west than what it's showing. I'm turning on the 2019 aerial, is that without the trees on it? Yep.
Can you guys see it? I can't, because I don't have this hooked up, so I cannot.
Yep.
It runs right here.
Dark green?
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious where the drain is.
Where the line, the dotted line is not, it's not cutting through where the trees would be cut so we need to go to the west. You see,
Just a little bit.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I have a question on the, conceptually on the drawing, this carve out here, that looks like it's, so what's the distance between that and where in relationship on this drawing is the proposed improvements, the house and the where, so we could
Are you
just.
talking about on this one?
Yeah,
Yes,
that
yes.
cutout. Where's that cutout?
there's somebody's house is already up there.
Well, we understand.
That's
So where's this lot
the
compared to that?
far south, very bottom of it.
So it'd be this one. This is the entrance.
It's
here.
not
This
on
is the road. So it'd be way back here. So this would be at the drive.
This page, it's at the bottom. That's where this proposed lot would be, the bottom sliver of that.
So this is this.
What's that blue line?
Here.
Okay.
Show 'em what is that.
Yeah, what's that blue line? We thought that blue line was.
That's actually where, when you turn on the GIS and you click onto the parcel, it blue lines it out. And then I put
Black line is a parcel.
I see. So it is clear down here on this. Yeah. All right.
Very south side of that yellow box.
Well, the only way the surveyor's
farming
office
in the other
can make
Yeah, I know
exactly
it.
where that drain is
I
to
know
go
it.
out and probe it.
They are. They're farming it the wrong direction.
And so that's what we have to do, we have to go out and probe it.
Yes.
So,
I have to go and ask.
Pardon me?
I can ask her,
Okay.
because there's
Just go over farther.
sometimes folks don't believe in them. And that's the one problem I do have.
Well, I don't think that Georgian drain's
Yeah.
that deep.
That makes
I'm not
sense.
sure.
So they're talking about building
Running and
here.
running that deep? Yes.
I
And
said, I
where's-
don't think
and
that
where's
short
the-
whole drain
where's the
is that
driveway?
deep.
Okay.
So we can probably do that.
Where's the
Probe it,
drain?
find out exactly
Where's the
what's
drain
happening.
in this drawing?
We can do that.
Well, the drain.
Where's the driveway?
They don't need these.
Yes.
No,
That's
the
their
drain
drain.
is clear down here. This is a road
They have
here.
easement.
So the driveway.
So they're driving to-
Well, drain's
To
from
stay
here.
out of, it's 75 feet on either side of that thing.
And according to
So can I
that
show that
picture,
to him, Dr. too?
It's coming through there.
Yeah, both of them.
So on your sheet with the yellow box,
Down here, right? That's what I figured.
Yep.
Right here.
You see the black line? Yeah.
I suppose what they're saying
So
is
right there,
the guy with part of the city.
Two houses right here, right? Or just one?
You look across the street, yes. So where the dots are?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's what I thought.
Or in pink.
Two houses are right here.
Yeah, especially if he's going from here. Well, this way, he probably farms it the other way, doesn't he?
It makes sense.
Whatever happened to that picture? Can we see that picture again?
Yep.
Looks like he's farming it the other direction. See, he's farming it. Would that be, which direction would that be? That would be north to south, right?
Yeah,
This
this-
line's
this
going
one's
east and
south.
west.
This is a new farmer too, that's gonna be buying all the rest of that land.
So maybe just use another cut out here.
Mhm.
Don't make a lot of difference, like you said, one way or the other.
So Rachel.
We thought he was farming it the other direction. If you shorten that up, fatten that up, it's not gonna affect him any, because he's going the other direction on his farming.
That was my question, how far do you feel to make it worth to be able to?
Width. what would be, if you were using the right rate, the ratio, what
Well,
would
we
be
thought he was
that
farming the
money?
other direction. That's why you said you need a straight line. Well, he's not farming it this way. He's farming it this way.
If they would keep a
No, he's farming
231
it this
foot wide at the road, the depth should be 811 feet. So that would be, so the proposed is 1345.
Yeah, 1360 is good. Yeah, 1345, sorry.
I mean, so, and I guess in my opinion, there's three different options. One of them is to approve it as drawn. One is ask for an adjustment in the lot width, and keep the lot depth the same, or we can ask for an adjustment in the lot depth and keep the lot width the same.
So we can change them both. Yeah. We like the idea of changing them both.
What do you mean change them both?
Change the width and the depth. Yeah. They can still get their house and barn in there, because he's farming it the other direction, so having a straight line there is not gonna make any difference.
I think the goal was for the young people who want to build the house, want to go as far east as possible, because they're really wanting to protect that back end. And what I had originally started with was an ingress egress across the first parcel of the 80 acres, and then starting the parcel at the back, at the 7 acres in the back. And the discussion came around with, first of all, we would have a driveway crossing with crossing, but it was also the expense of a driveway being that long. And then they were concerned also with this new farmer who is not a relative, reducing that ingress egress and what kind of rights they had to be able to stop it from, you know, if we said 30 feet and then he plows it down to 20 and then the next couple of 10 years down to 15 or whatever. And their thought was, it's probably for the best that we own it. The ordinance would not allow it to be an ownership across the parcel. That's another one of the ordinance requirements. And so we were like, okay, let's start you at the road frontage and take it back. And their whole goal is to try to be as far east as possible. However, they have talked to me. We were talking about how the expense of the driveway and everything to be able to be maintained. And so they are now thinking around the 350 to 400 feet off the road is where the house will be. The barn's going to be further to the east. But their whole thought is the far east side of that property is it's a memory for this young lady. She was raised there. Her father is that little cutout. That was her father's house. But her whole goal is to be on that far east 80 acres. I don't know if we foreshorten it. There is already a contract with the new buyer, farmer. 7 acres is all that is allowed to be off of this property. So if I foreshorten it or whatever, 7 acres is all I have. I can't, if I go wider, takes off the piece that she wants. She's not going to get the piece she wants on the far east. If I make it, I can't, whatever we do, it's going to be 7 acres is what I'm stuck doing because it's contract.
So Rachel, was the ordinance, the original ordinance that we're dealing with, I guess we could look at dates because there's been a lot of questions about precedents, you could say, because there's a lot of long, narrow lots. And I don't know if that was grandfathered in when the ordinance was established, or was it the intent of the ordinance in the beginning, and then we've approved.
It's likely the ones that you're seeing were legal. They are legal, non-conforming lots. So they were probably in place before the newest version of our ordinance was put into place.
That's exactly what.
If there's other ones that have been done after that, then those likely have been approved by this board to have a waiver. So it's really difficult when we look at aerial maps and we see, that there's other ones that have been done in the past that may look like this. We don't really know at what point in time that those were done. And like I said, likely a lot of those were done prior to our new ordinance being adopted. For our job here today, we are supposed to look at this lot individually and not necessarily look at other lots and what's been done to those lots. We have to look at this one independently. And your board is not necessarily setting a precedent by approving or denying this lot, because each lot is supposed to be looked at individually. And that is why the waiver process does exist, is for when there are unique situations, this board can grant a project to move forward with modifications that don't follow the ordinance. So that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
It would be appropriate if the commission would like, you've gotten a lot of information here today. You could bump this a month, give Rachel and staff an opportunity to work with the owner and the owner's agents to determine if there is a fix to this problem that would be more palatable to the commission, because we do have to make certain findings.
I agree, Jeff. That's what I was actually going to ask. Since you have a little bit of knowledge of the contract, and this is a family selling this parcel, to me, it would seem that those contracts could be written contingent upon approval of that south parcel being divided. And if that is part of that contract, perhaps you can go back and maybe negotiate or look at a way to remedy this with both parties being satisfied. So I would maybe suggest a table to give that opportunity rather than deny this today.
So are you going to make that a motion or just
Yes.
a suggestion?
I do know, well, the buyer side, which is the farmer, they have it ready to close as soon as I give them that we're ready to go, so they have already gone through the financing and everything's ready for closing on the farmer end of it. So.
The other thing is, I understand, especially if they're going through getting a conventional loan, we don't know their time process in our loan either, so we hold them up a month, they actually put them in jeopardy of closing their property.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, my saying, that's common sense.
That's why we have a board, so you guys can consider these things.
What's this other cutout? What's this other cutout in here? Is that just a wooded area?
I must come to you.
It's right here.
Okay, there was a,
This, I know what this is, but we didn't know what this was.
I think there used to be a house there. I don't think there is. I'm gonna look on the area. I'm gonna walk over to him.
I'm just saying, they're farming that area, and that's pretty narrow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why we couldn't cut that off. They can just go straight through there.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Because she wants
There is a
that,
house
she wants
there.
that corner.
Right here?
There.
Yes.
That's owned by someone by the name of Hankins.
Troy Hankins. And there's a cutout. There's actually a parcel here.
That's to the
and a
east.
parcel here.
And he's farming. Yeah, he's farming.
Can you guys see that?
And this was probably 2 fields, right?
Over here.
So here's one parcel, and then this
So
would
if we
be
cut
some,
here,
that house is
he's used to.
Yeah, he's used to it, isn't it?
Oh, yes, I
Yeah,
think we could
they
find
farm all that U shape.
Widen this out. Cut out.
We don't know all the terms of the contract, so I would suggest a table.
There's no
Let them
access
work
road,
it out.
nothing. I don't know what to remember. The driveway has to go all the way back.
That's a small parcel over there.
Because this is the road they're coming, this will be the driveway cut.
Well, so again, why do they want to go to the east of the property?
I'm sorry.
Why are they wanting to build to the east of that so much?
Their original thought was they just absolutely love it back there in that far corner. But finances have cut that driveway back quite a bit. I know that since we have been talking, this started, I can't remember, November, in my conversations with them. Yesterday, they were given the price to build their home went $100,000 higher. So I know that they're really pushing to try to start contract, lock it in, because they've now gone to almost a $400,000 home. But I do know that her memories, her love for the land is from when she was raised on this very property. It's the far east end that she really loves, and that is part of the problem is, you know, she really is in love with it, and I know I would not divide. I have not asked their permission, so I can't really say this. But my thought was, you know, if we divided it to the far east side, separating it into two parcels, one would be a non-conforming, but it would be an illegal non-conforming, meaning that they would never be able to build on that east end.
Right.
And I didn't offer that to her because I did not want to go against the ordinances like that. But it's, as I'm speaking, I'm thinking I could make this conforming if I went 800 feet, the 230 on the west end, and then made an east parcel to take her all the way and still get her 7 acres. But I don't know. I'm talking as I'm speaking. I'm standing. I'm talking out loud.
Well, I don't think we've talked enough then to make a decision. I think you need to kind of take this back to the discussion phase with the potential buyer. That, for that reason, I would make a motion that we at least table it for 30 days in order to be able to make a more informed decision. It's my recommendation.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spinner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown, Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Bolander,
No.
and Wes Lykin.
Yes.
Ma'am, could you come up here and show you something real quick?
Real quick, Jerry, you made your motion for 30 days. You might want to make it until the next meeting or somehow clarify.
Right, okay,
that.
next meeting.
Got a question for that on that motion too. If that person that's buying that property, if they're getting in jeopardy, is there any way we call a special meeting so we won't hurt them on
Yes.
their finances?
Mhm.
and
Yeah, you
that?
can call special, yes.
Yeah.
So can you communicate that to us?
Okay.
Because I don't want to, we already had a situation that came in front of us that somebody had lost a sale of the property due to pushing meetings, pushing stuff back. So let us know.
And we're not here to hurt them, we just.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Okay. See right here with this one's asking about this cutout. If you take this line down here and you cut that off right there at that line, okay? Then because he's farming that this way, see?
Right.
And he's farming this back in here. So that width right there is not bothering him. I don't know what that is, but I'm just saying they're farming that. You can tell they're farming that. So if you're talking about another partial, if you line it up right at the edge of that, see, that makes makes it a lot more, instead of just arbitrarily pulling a line somewhere. If you keep it in there, then that helps everybody out. That helps the farmer out better. To try to keep everything.
That way because of the lines, right?
Yeah, you can tell they're farming it that way. So if that line comes straight down there and you cut that off right there.
Right.
And then if you want to, you could do two things. You could either cut that off and that would be it, and they would farm this, and you just widen this out for your 7 acres to work. That's fine. Or you just make, like you said, 2 parcels and you don't farm that at all.
And don't improve it.
Right. You can do that. Just like you said, it's an illegal non-conforming lot, so you won't be able to build on it.
Right.
Because it's lot bound.
Right. Right.
So that's
And
just
that is
shows.
something that we don't like to do because no road frontage is illegal.
Right.
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 To do it that way means that I'm going to have to make sure it's easy to cross the property for themselves.
Right.
And it would have to get approved by.
Well, they'd be back, I don't know if you need an easement, because you'd be at the end of their lot. Oh, you mean an easement through their lot to get to the other lot?
Yeah, because if it gets sold, lost in tax sale or something, then somebody else has no right to get there.
Right.
And we don't like to make parcels that are not accessible.
I don't love that idea
Is
either.
the new buyer an adjacent property owner already?
No.
So they're just buying this parcel as it is? They're not adding it to an adjacent property?
No.
Oh, I see.
There's a road over there.
To the east?
There's a fence row. It's got boundaries all around it when I was looking at that one
So I'm thinking, as a farmer myself, I would rather have a straight property line on the south side right here rather than making a notch somewhere.
Make it easier to farm.
I think it would, yeah.
I would be curious if the seller would consider selling more than the 7-acre limit so that the width depth ratio could be accommodated.
He's already under contract with the farmer who's buying the land, and the farmer was real clear. They've already tried to get the acreage of what they're gonna be buying, and they've already gone through all the financing and stuff. And the farmer was really clear about not giving any more.
Okay. But I think that's a conversation to have with your seller, that these are the Madison County rules that, are available on the website and all that stuff. Okay.
I did
Yeah.
have that conversation.
I know you're the messenger too, so I appreciate you, Kathy.
Tom, is there any way they could find out where that drain easement, or where that drain is?
I told her we'd go out and we'd probe it.
If you could probe it and flag it, and
Yeah, we'll find out where it's at.
that would help a lot. Seems like to me.
I told her we'd go out and do that.
Okay, before you move on, can I please have clarification on what the motion is? We tabled it, but are we putting in if they come back to us, or we're just tabling it?
That was tabled to,
Outright table into the May regular meeting.
That's what I wanted, because I know there's a lot of talking, so I want to make sure.
If we did do a special meeting, there'd have to be a renotice to the interested parties.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification.
Okay.
Ready to go to miscellaneous?
Yes. I just have a couple updates from Planning Department. First of all, we are meeting with Kelly Drew on Thursday to talk about his property and the status of it in regards to the list that had been made in January of 2021, just to go over all the elements that are in there to, really nail down where he is on status on those items that are planning related items. There are drainage related items. There is some bit of an overlap between the drainage board and the planning department, so we're going to try to keep everyone in their own lanes on this so that planning is being responsible for what the planning related items are, and then the drainage board needs to be responsible for the drainage related items. So that is something that's happening, and we'll keep you guys posted as to progress being made on that.
are you gonna set up any kind of deadlines, or ready to talk about that yet?
Yeah, we'll look at what's been done, what still needs to be done. We'll have deadlines. What I would like to do is bring our game plan to the board and have you guys approve that game plan and make it so that I am not allowed to give any more extensions on anything. That if there is any extensions to be granted, he would have to come back to this board to request any extensions, or it would go to court at that point.
So when you're talking in terms of what's acceptable or not acceptable, and maybe this is a legal thing, do we have the, as a board, or do you implement a compliance penalty if non-compliance, or do we have to vote for a penalty, or is that up to who? That's the concerns that I have.
The planning director is your agent that is able to do those things. However, because of the duration of this problem and the visibility of it, the thought would be, and I was involved with Rachel talking about the plan to proceed, that at the next meeting you would approve her plan, you would take away her ability to grant any extensions, and you would also authorize your lawyer to file suit without further action of the plan commission if, in the eyes of the planning director, that the compliance had not been met on any of the milestones contained in the approved plan. So that would be, that was Rachel's thought, and I think that's a good way to do it, because the wheels of government by design turn slowly, but you can cut those out and say, we don't want any more extensions. And Jeff, if she says go, you go.
Can we make that in the form of a motion that basically concludes that we've made that decision ahead of this meeting, so that we're actually giving Rachel the flexibility to pull the trigger on any legal activities so that we wouldn't have to revisit this.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
would- I
you
would
could do
make-
that.
I would make that motion.
And I would like to see, actually before the motion is even made, I would like to see the timeline on that plan.
That's what I was going to suggest too. Can I give you guys a timeline first, and then let's make sure that everyone is comfortable with that timeline, because I feel like that needs to be more of a group decision than it just be on me for a timeline, because I don't have the history of this project as you all have and the residents and Mr. Kelly has. So yeah, I would feel more comfortable as staff. That would be a request that I have for you, is please let me get, after I meet with Mr. Kelly, let me put that game plan together on what I see. And if you guys think it's reasonable, then you can approve it, and then let's move forward with it in that way. I think we can maybe make a motion to say that this is our game plan moving forward.
Sure.
And then once I have that game plan together, then we can make the motion that you're discussing right now.
And you'll have that by next month?
Mhm.
Now, would a previous timeline be in consideration to the new timeline? Because we've been extending this out for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have that email that was sent, I believe by Mr. Newman to Mr. Kelly from January of 21. And that's the one that I will be discussing with Mr. Kelly on Thursday. We'll look at, what is on that list, what the timeline was. We'll make sure that we're setting, if there's new deadlines that need to be made, realistic deadlines and firm deadlines. And again, if those deadlines that he and I put together are not acceptable to this board, we can adjust that at the meeting. And that's where we can have that conversation about adjusting a deadline or an item that's on the list.
So I believe it's the consensus of this planning board that we have given Mr. Drews reasonable time, and that, it's time to cut to the chase and get this done, because it has dragged on long enough. And it's obvious that neighbors are being affected. The pictures that I've seen has demonstrated that. And so, if I lived in the neighborhood and had to deal with some of the issues, I think I would be frustrated, and I think the neighbors have a reason to be, and a right to appeal to us to get something accomplished. And we've been fair and reasonable with Mr. Drews and a timetable, and we've kicked this can down the road, and it's time to get something done. So if you want me to make the motion that you just described, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay. Again, if there's a different direction you guys want to head today, that is up for your discussion, and, but that is just being new and fresh and coming in and not knowing the full history or being involved with the past history. That is what I think is fair moving forward, is that I have a conversation with him and try to move it forward. But again, if that is not what you guys want to do, we can go a different direction with that, certainly.
Jerry was basically saying, make sure that timetable is addressed.
Okay.
I'm probably the most impacted by it out of all the residents, because I get to swimming pool in front of my house every time it rains, full of mud. And, my kids' balls roll down in there, and I gotta wait till it dries out just to get a basketball or baseball out of the mud. And it's becoming an issue with me. Actually, it's tearing up the gravel. Not the gravel, but the pavement right there in front of my house. So, we're getting more potholes than we ever had, and the water is traveling different directions than I have ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I see the water travels on the left side of the road. The ditch runs down the right side, which is my side, but I see it going across the street down my neighbor's side now, which it never did before, unless it was this excessive amount of rain, right? But on normal rain days, it always just traveled through mine, which I was used to, right? But now when it's growing and it's going to across the street, and people being trapped in their houses and can't get out because there's only one way out to get that way, unless you got a truck that can raise up. Good thing y'all seen the site for me to buy one that can do that. But people, there's a lot of older people back there. I'm probably the youngest besides my neighbor across the street that live out there. So it is becoming more of a hassle. I get tired of getting announced.
I'm sure. Absolutely. I think too, I think it's important to keep in mind that the drainage board is part of this issue too. So a lot of those drainage issues that you're discussing, that those do need to be communicated with the drainage board. And so Lindsay, I think it would be very appropriate for you if you were able to attend a drainage board meeting to make sure that this is moving forward on the drainage board end as well.
Rachel, a couple of the other things in your investigation for May's meeting, I would like to see an update from Water and Soil and the sign violation. There was a complaint about that, whether or not that is true or not. I'd like to understand what the situation is. And then the building that's supposed to be just for office use, what is exactly going on with the things being stored out front, boats and vehicles and so forth. So I just want to make sure we cover everything that we've received complaints upon, that it all gets resolved in May, and we don't have to continue to revisit this with other issues.
Will do.
So let me make sure that, and I was planning to make a motion that dealt with one issue, but you've suggested another way to go, and I'm moving that, if I understand correctly, that Rachel's going to meet with Mr. Drews, and she's going to go over a timeline, and then she's going to report back to us with that timeline at the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then within that, whatever we do, from the results of that, we're going to vote to move forward with some sort of a, for lack of a better way of describing it, do or die, so to speak, because we've been dealing with this long enough. And so my motion is, of course, to do just that, give Rachel the flexibility to have this meeting report back to us at the next planning board meeting. Then we will form either approve or not approve that recommendation from you that we're going to impose some sort of penalties for inaction or non-completion.
Yep.
All right.
And I think too, it's important to note that even though I will formally present that to you at the next Plan Commission meeting, that some of these deadlines that we will put into place when we talk on Thursday might happen before that meeting. So we'll keep moving the process along. So if I get my game plan together, and we have an agreement that we've talked about, that we're going to start hitting those deadlines before I even come back to you.
Perfect. That's my
Sounds great.
motion.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Go roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepard,
Yes.
John Richwine,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Bellnander,
Yes.
and Wes Lightfoot.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
I just have one last question.
Sure.
Can you give us an update on the solar ordinance, when that will be discussed, what our plan is with that moving forward?
How would you like me to handle the solar ordinance, I guess? Because I'm here on an interim basis. My opinion on it is I would recommend that you have a full-time planning director in place before you put together or move forward with an ordinance like this, because I think you need to have your planning director on board with guiding this ordinance moving forward. So I just don't know if I'm the right person since I'm interim, but again, I'm here to work for you guys. So if this is a priority that needs to get forward immediately, I'm happy to try to tackle that. So I think that's just up for discussion, I guess, on your guys' end.
Do we know if Brad's going to come back? Do we know if we're going to hire
We do
someone?
know that.
Pardon me?
We do know that he is not coming back.
He is not coming back.
You need to have the board accept it.
Yeah, no, I'm
I got a question.
just waiting on my turn.
Question about the solar ordinance. I know we did a vote on it to extend, right?
Hey, Lindsay, can you please talk into the microphone?
It's a moratorium.
Moratorium, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Corey. So, has there been any discussions down at the State House as far as any changes? I know that's what our thing was try to beat that much, right?
Yes.
Well, I'll answer that question. The state legislature did approve some initial state authorized not set, basic setbacks and basic standard. However, they gave the counties, any county flexibility to establish an ordinance that superseded the state's recommendation. So the timeline is not as urgent as originally thought, because the last year's state legislature bill stated that if by July 1st, if counties have not established a solar ordinance, then they would have to comply with the states, and the state would supersede the county. So the new bill that was passed gave counties the flexibility to opt into a different ordinance, regardless of what the state's recommendations was. So we do have time, and that's at least
Definitely to our
at least
advantage.
we don't have that challenge.
Okay, and we still got that state where nobody can actually put solar farms in Madison County right now, right?
Yeah.
All right,
My suggestion, we keep it on until we get the ordinance.
exactly, that's what I was gonna say, so, yeah, I'm okay with waiting until we hire somebody.
And it may be when we hire somebody, they've got a, pretty steep learning curve to come on right away with a new job and then start that ordinance. Maybe that we want to work with somebody like Rachel, have a consultant on board that helps with the ordinance as we move forward. So something else to think about.
Right, okay.
Just to clarify a little bit what Lindsay said, large-scale solar farms are the ones that are prohibited. You can still do the smaller ones, so it's not an outright ban.
Right, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'll put one in my house.
All right, I did get a letter from Brad on Friday, and it says, Plan Commission, it's with a heavy heart that I am resigning from my position as Executive Director due to health reasons or issues. I thank all of you that have supported me throughout the last 8.5 years. It's been an honor and a privilege to have served the residents of Madison County and have been entrusted by you to be the face of the Plan Commission. I wish you all the best and know with your leadership, Madison County is in excellent hands. Sincerely, Brad Newman. So I guess after reading that, I hope Brad gets better, gets well. But I guess I'll make a motion that we accept his resignation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We might as well do a roll call on this one too, Stacy,
Okay,
please.
Mark Gary,
Yes.
Denise Spooner,
Yes.
Jerry Alexander,
Yes.
Lindsey Brown,
Yes.
Tom Shepherd,
Yes.
John Ridgway,
Yes.
John Zimmerman,
Yes.
Corey Bolander,
Yes.
and Wes Lykin.
Yes, motion passes. Now I guess we start looking for a new director. And do we need to do any more discussion on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think we should, just from the board, right? I think he served for many years, so everybody should, give him a round of applause or something, or give him some kind of thanks for his service, And I know, me personally, I hate to see anybody have any kind of health issues, no matter what they are. And he has my prayers.
Yes.
So,
Well said.
Second that.
Second time.
Thank you.
I would suggest that the board direct the Human Resources Department to review the job description, appropriate salary, and to proceed, posting and advertising for that position. If you don't do that, you're going to be talking about it 30 days from now. So.
I agree.
And then she can email that out to everybody for your review. If you have any suggestions, you can email her back.
can we put a committee together so we at least have actually a general salary range where people actually would be paid a decent wage for it?
Yes.
I'm being serious because I don't want to, sit there and, we short or lowball it and then we get low qualified candidates.
If you want to hire, Rachel, I keep banging on Rachel to come to work for us, but if you want to hire somebody like Rachel, we're not close.
Right, and that's what I figured.
So,
yeah.
So it needs to be looked at if you want to get somebody with those type of qualifications.
So Wes, it'll be up to you to put a committee together to do that, But Because I just asked Rachel over there, because I like her aggressiveness, so I just asked her, would she like to come work for us, but.
Never thought I would be called, I mean, just growing up, I was this shy, timid girl, and now I'm getting called aggressive. That's interesting to me.
It's a positive aggressiveness,
I agree,
right?
yes, thank you.
But, I think we should actually look into that in more detail, so we can make sure we do get a good qualified candidate that can actually do the job, so.
We do have, I mean, just obviously coming from Pendleton, we have good staff down there. Not to say that this isn't good staff up here. I think our staff is wonderful here. So, but if you're looking for job descriptions, I know they've recently gone through a lot of that where they may have some things that can help you guys out if you want to look at some of their stuff. I'm sure I can email them and they would be happy to share some of that stuff with you guys, even their salary range and the type of qualifications they were looking for in their recent planning director searches.
Well, as it relates to that, the planning director, Madison County is projected to be one of the largest growth counties in this state of Indiana. And from what recent documents have concluded, that 70% of from the last census, the statewide increases, 70% of it has been in Madison County. So I don't anticipate that's going to change, and so we do need someone that is up to the challenge, and a department that, when they're looking at evaluating the cost of this, we may have to invest some money now to reap the benefits years from now, and if we don't make the right decision, we're going to find ourselves behind the bus instead of on the bus.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, of course, I'm a planner, so I'm a huge advocate for planning, but you are building your community right now with all the growth that's happening in Madison County. So this is a very important position for the county at this point in time. Looking at overall building permits in all of Madison County, this is not just in the unincorporated areas of Madison County, but in 2015, there were 83 new homes that were, a permit was pulled for them. And in 2021, we had 679. So that kind of tells you the amount of work that's coming into these planning departments, especially in South Madison County. I know a lot of those were Ingalls and Pendleton proper, but there's still that trickle over into the county that, to have, staff that can really guide how that growth and development is happening, and having that skill set that you can ask for things like road improvements to go along with a rezone or those types of things, I think is really important right now for your county, for our county. I live here too.
I have one thing. Well, since we are so short-handed in the office up there without a director, is there any way we can get temporary help up there just to answer phones and stuff until we get a director? I mean, seems like there would be somebody just here in the building here that could go up, that's not needed as much, could go up there and help, because they're just swamped up there getting the permits. If they just had somebody answer the phone and do things like that, it would really help. And I was just wondering if there was some way, maybe not a permanent job, but for right now, but at least somebody to answer the phone until we do get a director.
I can tell you firsthand, it is extremely busy. And then with Rachel not being in there every day, and her limited ability to be in there is causing his job, your job, to be filtered out to us, which then in turn is making us twice as busy as what we've been. It would be much appreciated, because
there's several things going on. There's increased applications and permits and things that are needing, and there's weird things getting asked too. It's not just normal development projects that are happening. I think the cost of building materials and inflation and all of these things are causing people to come in and say, trying to be creative on how they can build a house still with all these limitations that are getting put on them. So we're having really weird questions coming in that are taking a lot of time to dive into the ordinance to figure out what they can and cannot do. It's not just, I want to build a house. It's, I want to build a barn and a house on the second floor, and, just weird stuff that I would say is not typical. I think we're really working hard to get caught up on past petitions and projects and things that just with this transition of staff has been difficult to get caught up on. There is a number, I get a lot of emails every day, and I tried my best to get through them, but we are swamped. And I don't think it is just based on having an interim planning director right now. I think just the number of the growth that we're having.
Yeah, well, we have the same staff that we had 3 years ago with a lot less petitions.
Hardly anything going on. Yeah.
Could we use a youth to answer the phone? Like, like some kids that's doing some work study programs or something and pay
I just
them?
wanted the county council, if there's
But
any
I
money
was gonna
involved.
say, the logistics of that would, we have to give a 10-day notice of any increases in new funding. So we have a meeting tonight, and we're beyond that certainly that 10-day notice, but I think the commissioners have bailed out some by moving people around within their department. I don't know if they have the ability to do that, but I think if we would be able to have a special meeting to agree to hire a temp agency to provide us somebody to do just that, and I think that there would be availability of funding, but we'd have to have that 10-day notice in order to get that done.
Stacy, if there's
Yes.
any extra, if you had a few $1,000s in an account that at least is not going to be spent in the foreseeable future, they could vote tonight to actually transfer that into a part-time line item.
I have to look at it because
And
we have major, a major automobile
Yeah, we got
auto
to talk
issue
about
right
that
now
too.
that I just don't know where, I mean, with our budget being so limited to some of the bigger departments, we just don't have that there to be able to, and over the last 3 years, our budget has been cut just for auto. We went from 3,800 to 1,500 this year in the last 3 years. Well,
And we have a $1,400 repair that needs to be done.
yeah,
So,
those are just some of the things that we're faced with in the office.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's another meeting we need to have, but that's some of what her and I were talking about, especially with the auto expense. I mean, 2020, we were at 3,800, and
So I don't know if you've got
today-
any extra money in office supplies or something like that you could get by for the next 30
I
days.
can look, but.
It doesn't have to get you to the end of the year. Just get you to the next council meeting that you can transfer out of there, and then you could let Jerry know,
Okay,
and he could spearhead getting that done tonight, get it over into some part-time, and then he
Sure.
could get you, let's say it's $3,000 or $2,000, he can get that back to you
absolutely.
at the next regular meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I'll be able to explain that. Just look and evaluate where the money's at, and a transfer of money doesn't require a 10-day notice.
Okay,
So even if
Sure.
it's something that you're going to spend, but you're going to spend it
Later.
later, then we can appropriate new money to replenish that fund, and we can get it advertised.
okay, I will do that. When I get up there, I'll look into it.
And it could be from more than one place.
Okay, making a note right now, and I will look at it when I get back up there.
I think too, with Lindsay, with your suggestion of having a committee look at the planning director's position and what qualifications, it might be a good opportunity with this transition that's happening is looking at the department as a whole and what type of staff you'll need moving into this future of Madison County and looking at budgets. And it just seems like a good opportunity to look at it with fresh eyes since things have changed so much in our county.
I agree.
To kind of, does it need to be restructured a little bit? Should we look at job titles, making sure that we're being efficient with staff? Is there a game plan? If we need more staff, how do we transition to add more staff in the future? Those types of conversations.
We need to adjust our budget so that we can, present a good plan before the county council,
Yeah.
so that we have those appropriated funds for our future growth.
And I think too, with the number of building permits that are coming in, and this just makes my mind go in 16,000 different directions, because there's ways for this department to be revenue generating where they can pay for the new staff, or maybe our fee schedule needs to be adjusted so that it is more reflective of the amount of time it takes to review an application. Not just your planning director's time, but your administrative staff time. I'm not quite sure how that lines up right now. HWC, I have a gentleman working with me that is reviewing the plats right now. So we'll have a good idea of how much time it takes to review plats. Once in a couple months, we can, I'll have a good report on that we did, however many plats, and it took this many hours to do that. So we can start adjusting, or that can be helpful information in that conversation.
Sounds like Rachel's gonna be on that committee.
That's why I like Rachel.
Sounds like Rachel's gonna be on that committee.
Okay, but can I just pick a committee?
Yeah.
The only problem with picking a committee is the committees, anytime they would meet with more than a majority, it's subject to the open door law notice requirement.
So like if Lindsay and Rachel and John were on the committee, would that,
That's a committee that's appointed and subject to open door. Now what?
It's only three.
Yeah, but that's a committee. That's,
1, 2.
okay, so what would you suggest, Jeff?
It doesn't violate this body, but even a committee of this body is subject to open door.
Oh.
So, I would just suggest to encourage, we have a commissioner, we have a council member, Lindsay's interested, Rachel's interested, just suggest them, if you'd like to work with HR on that, please do so. But don't formally appoint the subcommittee, because if you do that, it is subject to open door.
Okay. Gotcha, thanks.
Doesn't bother me.
Well, I know Lindsay wants to be involved, I can already
I
tell.
would like it, yeah.
It looks like she's early morning meetings.
Yeah,
No, I don't. That's what I don't like.
All right, so we have that. We don't need to make no vote on it.
Lindsay,
Now, John,
will you take point on that with your group?
I'm gonna ask you, as far as getting the job advertised or getting the ball moving on that, how do we need to go about that?
So I would make a motion that we direct the HR department to look at the job description, the salary, work with Rachel on that, and get that information out to us for any discussion items or suggestions. You can reply back and she can change those where appropriate, resupply us with that information, and when she feels sufficiently confident that we've got everything correct, then she should go ahead and advertise that.
Okay, so we got a motion.
Second that.
And a second. I think that's just an all in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So you gonna do that, John?
I'll talk to her one more time.
All right, there we go. Now, we have the truck.
We have a truck.
It's like,
I feel like it's in jail.
it's in jail.
Now, I don't know who has the truck.
We don't either.
So,
Do we ever-
Riley and Son,
Huh?
Riley and Son.
Okay,
Was it wrecked?
no.
Oh.
I think it had repairs done. The repairs were $1,400 some dollars.
Mhm.
And our truck fund has a total of like $1,500 in it, and that's for gas. We don't have any.
We have $528
What?
left in our
Did it
account.
start
for
out
this.
1,500?
Yes.
But, you know, the guy did that, guy. Gas price higher, so the gas, that's going down fast. And the truck's at Riley and Sons, and they won't let it out till we pay the $1,400. Is that did I just say that
Yeah,
right?
I think there was some past issues where maybe payment wasn't received in a timely manner, so our account has a flag on it that we need to pay before we take our vehicle.
They won't take after
We're a bad risk.
Which when all this came about a few weeks ago, I made that, I said, make sure that it's not, we're gonna have to pay up front. Make sure, all of this.
Yes, so that was definitely an error on my part. Yes, learning curve over here, so.
Maybe they're thinking about the federal government being $30 trillion in debt.
Yeah, that might have something to do with it.
So, we just need to move some money to get that paid.
We need to move some money, yes.
So we need money moved for the truck, we need money moved for some
Some temp help.
temporary help.
and then you need new money at the following county council
The
meeting.
next council meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or we could send around a collection plate.
We over here
Then maybe we
robbing-
get the truck out.
Now, there might be a chance, because I know they need to get that truck back, that we can pay for that with the county
Okay.
credit card. And then, but I'd have to have sufficient funds in order to pay that credit card out of the planning commission budget, when that bill arrives, so.
And I have directed Tom to keep track of his mileage right now so that we can reimburse him for, obviously, mileage for him doing his building inspections and violation inspections.
Correction, it's not at Riley and Son, it's at Mitch Smith.
Mitch
That
Smith.
was Liz.
Oh, it is?
Thank you.
Tell me it's at Mitch Smith.
Come on, make a look.
Yeah.
I've had to make a phone call the last time. It was in there because it didn't get paid, and it was not time.
And I don't necessarily think this was all planning commission related issues, so, I think there were other things that kind of went into, I got an earful, so it's interesting.
One might take it in here.
Does this department have its own vehicle, and we split the use of other
It's
departments.
got its own vehicle.
We have our own.
We have our own, and
How old
he
is
uses it to
That's
go out and
embarrassing.
does inspections and
That is
violations. He
embarrassing.
goes out and looks for violations,
Sure.
not looks for, but when there's violations, Liz will send him out to take pictures and all that. So it's used.
How old is it?
12 years old, I believe.
No, we ain't got no money to buy a new one, Bob.
We can't even get this one out of jail.
We can't even pay $14 fix this one.
Can't even buy gas.
Right.
Yeah, we can't afford to buy
And that was like last year with our fund, we pulled from other line items to pay because gas was already going up, and then now you add this year, and then, the truck, it's just.
Well, I'm gonna write a grant from ARPA funds, see if I can get it out of ARPA.
It's full of COVID. That truck is full of COVID.
Well, I could probably get the truck out today.
Yeah.
Let us know. Keep us posted.
All right.
And we'll do what we need to do on our end.
Do we have a motion to move the funds, or what do you need from us?
I think we need to, I don't know. Do we need to look where we can pull funds from first? And then, can we do just a,
Can we do that for the truck too, since we're gonna do it for the
you've
truck?
got
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you got
And
it.
then, do you want me to reach out to you, Jerry, by email, or how do you want me to get a hold of you?
I'm actually, all afternoon, I'll be traveling with Senator Braun, so it'll be better to send me a text message.
Okay. Will you make sure before you leave today I can get your cell phone from me?
All right.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I have one more thing. I'm so sorry, guys. Tom, our building inspector, is going to be on vacation from June 8th through the 18th. And I guess I would like to have some guidance on what we should be doing with building inspections during this time. One option is we can notify people that have active building permits with us that we won't have anyone available during that time frame, or we can look at contracting that out for that time period that he'll be gone.
You got no money.
But we have no money, so
And you have no.
what would you like me to do? We can do whatever you want, just give me some direction. I'm, on one hand, if we give adequate amount of time to our contractors and builders, that this is coming up, they'll have to deal with that. I don't know if that's the way we want to do business in Madison County, so I don't know.
I'd give him a heads up anyway.
We have in
Absolutely.
the past when he's gone on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's gonna be gone longer this time going to Africa.
And this is
That's
like
what-
prime building season, so.
Yeah. I wish I could. Well, I guess we might need to find somebody to hire.
Mhm.
If you go in there, because
Can we use the city, would the city help us out on that a little bit, or somebody like that for just?
You might be able to sub out somebody from the city, or you might be able to find somebody that has proper certifications. You could do it on the side.
I do have a guy I used when I was in Pendleton, and I can reach out to him and have him give us an estimate, if that would be helpful.
And maybe wouldn't have to have so many too, if we inform him that we're gonna be shut down. Maybe there'll only be a few that would have to be done while he's gone, and he could just catch back up.
Yeah, if we could keep anyone,
Rather
if
than
we,
just trying to keep doing them all.
yeah, if we do, keep it to a minimal if we contract someone out. I know the last time that I worked on something like this, we had one day a week that we had this building inspector come and do inspections for Pendleton projects. So we could structure it something similar where if he's gone from the 8th through the 18th, maybe there's a handful of days that we make him available for those building inspections, and it's not just as they call and need it.
That sounds like a win-win.
because in reality, out of from the 8th to the 18th, but checking out about 6 days just because of the weekend, so work won't be getting done anyway on those days. So
That's a couple days.
Yeah.
Surely be enough.
so it ain't
Yeah.
gonna be as long as we think it is. So
It'll still be painful.
yeah.
The builders
Footers and
like,
foundations, they can send in pictures to him because he's allowed that before when he's been off. So footers and foundations is gonna be more your electrical and your final inspections or your rough-in inspections.
I don't feel comfortable though sending him pictures while he's on vacation. We need to let the man have a vacation. He does a wonderful job for
No,
us.
they'll
and-
send them to me, and then
Oh,
when
okay.
he comes back, I'll.
Then we do it that way?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
I
how we've
understand
done it in
now.
the past. Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, we'll look into that. We'll get you guys some more information. Last thing I have is, our staff is wonderful. Stacy, Liz, and Tom have all been doing a fantastic job over the last couple of weeks. We've had some really bad days, and we've had some better days, and we're working towards having good days. So just lots and lots of projects coming and lots of challenging projects. And anytime you guys see them, make sure you tell them they're doing a great job, please, because they really are. So I think that's all I've got.
Anything else? Somebody want to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion. Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Who same? Meeting adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Oh.
No.
I felt better when it was at Riley. So.